big risk by approaching a beginner like me to act as a resource person. I have agreed to his request voluntarily and spontaneously because of the long-standing friendship and professional association I have with Dr. Nitin and his wife, Dr. Srila. Um, One thing I can assure you, Dr. Nitin, I may not be the best resource person available for this session, but I promise that I will give you my best. I try to give my best to you today.
Thank you, Dr. Diana.
Okay. COVID 19 has significantly transformed the ways in which economic interactions, social interactions, and educational academic interactions takes place across the world. And we have all witnessed that, and we have all attended a lot of webinars probably in the last few months. And I'm sure most of you who are attending this webinar would also have attended a lot of webinars related to the impact of COVID. I cannot claim that my webinar will be entirely different from all those webinars, but I can say that the focus of my webinar is quite different from the previous webinars. With this introduction, let me move on to my presentation. Hello, Nitin. Is it visible?
Yes, it's visible. I request every participant to pin Dr. Diana and Isaac in brackets presentation so that you can see the PPT file.
Okay, okay. In case the slides are not turning or in case any issues happen, kindly intervene, Nitin. You may kindly
Yeah,
intervene.
I'll inform.
Okay. So I'm not concentrating on the impact of COVID-19 because it has been overly discussed in all the webinars so far. I am concentrating on how to navigate the human and business impact of COVID-19. Before I move on to my deliberations, I would like you to watch a small video, which I'll be cutting short by 2 minutes. And that gives an idea about the impact of COVID on the global economy. It is a quick recap on the impact of COVID on the global economy.
We're seeing this massive push that's going to result in all kinds of services being available remotely that previously weren't.
And many companies have been able to adapt to working from home, a new pattern that seems to be forming as a part of our new reality.
I think this is certain.
Nitin, was the slide running?
Yes.
Okay. So I think we have seen a quick recap of how the COVID-19 has impacted the global economy. From there, how we are going to outmaneuver the uncertainty, how business can navigate the financial and operational challenges of coronavirus. That is where I would like to focus today. So COVID-19 has posed a massive challenge which is unprecedented in the history of mankind. And the business houses or the organizations which succeed will depend on how to turn this massive challenge into a massive opportunity, how to turn this massive challenge into meaningful change. And for that, the focus should be the triple N, which I think is very relevant for our discussion. The triple N's are now, next, and the new normal. So when you think about the now, prioritize on the now, we have to think about the situations right now. The organizations have to start supporting its people. Its people means definitely its employees, its suppliers, and its customers. The organizations have to take steps to address any disruptions to its supply chain management. It has to think about steps to stabilize the revenues. It has to take steps to align the business with new demands that is being coming up. And it has to identify, it has to discover new pathways for growth. So that is the priority of now. That is the journey to agility must start now. When you think about how this opportunity can be converted into how this challenge can be converted into opportunity, I would like to invite your attention to a very special brand, very special Indian brand, which is close to all of us, Amul. The Amul has successfully found growth in the time of crisis. Amul, the Gujarat Cooperative Milk Marketing Federation, which is commonly known as Amul, has doubled its expenditure on advertisement throughout the period of lockdown, when the entire brands in the country were either curtailing their advertisement expenditure or were stopping the advertisement altogether. And as per the research data from the TAM Media Research, Amul's advertisement volume increased threefold during the months of April and May, corresponding to last year. And the words of the MD of Amul, R.S. Sodhi, is very relevant in our context. Advertisement is a form of communication to the consumers, and for Amul, consumers are a part of their family. And if a family member is distressed, we should communicate more and not less. So that was the heart of their advertisement strategy. And they regarded communication with the consumers more important at the time of a crisis. And one thing I would like to highlight about Amul's advertisement is that they have always captured the imagination of masses. I don't know how many of you are followers of Amul's advertisements or billboards, but I am a regular follower, and this brand is quite very close to my heart. And if you closely follow the advertisements of Amul, especially during the lockdown, it is a chronological arrangement of the news headlines of the lockdown. It is very intelligently crafted, and it is a response to the news headlines from time to time. I'll show you a few examples in the coming slide. So doubling of the advertisement budget of Amul was a calculated risk which they took, and which paid handsomely for the brand during the time of crisis. And it is very much appreciated that during the time of lockdown, when the entire people were facing cash crisis, severe cash crisis, Amul managed to give rupees 11,000 crore to its farmers, and the milk procurement was up by 17%, and there was a 30 to 40% increase of sale in milk and all the milk related products from the product offering of Amul. And what gave them the success was they ensured that their supply chain is not disrupted throughout the lockdown. They gave incentives to ensure that the supply chain remained uninterrupted, and the products were available throughout the lockdown, and the advertisement, massive advertisement, translated it into more sales. And we can have a look into a few advertisements of Amul, which speaks for itself. The first one is Amul Homecoming. During the initial days of lockdown, the government of India had a mission to bring down people from Wuhan, stranded people from the epicenter of COVID, Wuhan. So this is a tribute to the homecoming of people from Wuhan. And the second one, the right side, top one, is an honoring of working women when the lockdown imposed women to work at home and also work for home. This doodle gave appreciation to the Indian women. And the third one was regarding a response to Prime Minister Narendra Modi's call to light a lamp at 9 p.m. for 9 minutes. And Amul has been using that for their advertisement. And the last one, work from home has resulted in a lot of video conferencing apps, especially Zoom, to be a household name. And they've used that in their advertisements. Again, you can see that lockdown special advertisements. This is the latest. You can see that the first one on the left side is when the May 25th, the government of India resumed the domestic flights after a long shutdown. So Amul was using that as an opportunity to present it as the most favorite snack for the airport staff or for the crew members of the flights. Regarding the importance, the central advertisement is showing regarding the importance of flattening the curve. This is a direct mention to flattening the curve. Amul has used it cleverly to mention it for flattening it on the bread. Then there's also an advertisement to honor the medical staff who are in the forefront of the fight against COVID. And the last one is one which is again Prime Minister Narendra Modi's mission, Atmanirbhar, and Amul has been using that to make kitchen self-sufficient. When Narendra Modi wanted India to become self-sufficient, Amul put it as to make kitchen self-sufficient. So we can see that they have used a crisis into an opportunity, and that has translated into a very good sales volume for the organization. So the journey to agility must start now. We cannot wait that the COVID will erase COVID will completely go out and we'll start the business. No, we have to live with COVID. We cannot expect the government to do beyond this. We cannot expect someone else to come and do anything for us. We have to start acting right now. And once we focus on now, next we have to focus our attention on next. So next undoubtedly will be a period of uncertainty and muted economic recovery. Economic recovery could be very slow if at all it is happening. And the next will offer you a new host of competitive threats. And with that, we have to find out a new host of opportunities also. And now, are we ready for the new normal? That is the big question. We have to accept that this business scenario is different. Business scenario has to accept the new normal that has been evolving. A new normal that is defined by fast changing shift in cultural norms, in societal values, in behaviors, and businesses are expected to practice socially responsible practices and display renewed brand purpose. And thinking about the 3 N's, what are its business implications? Now, next, and the new normal, what are its implications? There is an urgency as well as there is a sort of complexity to reopen the business after a lockdown. And reopening of businesses in the new normal is not just opening the business once again, but it also has to incorporate a program of reinvention. Nitin, am I audible?
Yes, it's audible. It's audible.
So reopening could present as an opportunity, as well as it is a need for many companies to build upon its competencies. And the new normal means that the businesses should be more digital. Businesses would go to more data driven processes using of more cloud facilities and more variable cost structures, agile operations and automation. And every organizations may have to increase their capabilities in e-commerce and data security. Yes, we are opening soon. The economies are supposed to open up soon. Businesses are supposed to open up soon. We cannot wait anymore. And when we are thinking about reopening, there are four possible potential scenarios, because we are reopening the businesses at a time where we are not exactly having any clue about the behavior of the virus. The virus has not announced that it is going to retreat, but we have announced that we are going to open up. So there could be four potential scenarios that business houses have to face. It could be a rapid remission, it could be a flattened curve, it could be a cyclical outbreak situation, or the worst scenario, it could be a prolonged chaos. So these are potentially four emerging scenarios depending upon the evolution of the virus and the response of the society. So an organization have to be prepared to reopen their business in any of the four situations. Sometimes the situations may keep oscillating from one situation to another. So what is the need of the hour is that we need to have a highly agile business model. These are the four potential scenarios. Rapid remission is the ideal situation, which we cannot say it has happened even now. That means the disease is already contained and life is returning to normal swiftly. Government will quickly act upon to stabilize the economy. As for India, as for Kerala, rapid remission is yet to be seen, is yet to come. Whereas we are trying to have flattened curve where the rate of infection is slowed down, but it hasn't gone into remission. The economy has shrunken into almost permanent ways. Here, the society is struggling to stand together. It has not yet broken. It is cooperating with the government measures. That is what is seeing we are seeing in Kerala right now. We are seeing right now. But the worst two scenarios also we have to expect. That is, there could be a potential cyclical outbreak also. That means infections are controlled in some locations, but newer hotspots are emerging. So in that situation, patience of the people goes in the long run, and there could be some fissures in the society. And the last and the worst situation which we fear to happen is a prolonged situation, prolonged chaos, where the effort to control the virus seems useless and governments and societies are strained beyond repair, and the economy has gone down beyond imagination. So we are trying to prevent prolonged chaos as far as possible. So these are the potential reopening scenarios which an organization have to be prepared. When we are thinking about reopening your business after COVID-19, there are three priorities we have to concentrate on. The first one is navigate the uncertainties. The uncertainties are definitely related to the four potential scenarios which I have narrated earlier. These scenarios present its own uncertainties. So whatever steps businesses are taking to reopen, it should be easily reversible and it should be easily scalable, because there could be a change of situation from one to another. And every businesses that is reopening will have a set of immediate challenges, especially to provide a safe working environment to the employees and also to build their trust. And third, the priority should be to build a better future. The reopening should be treated as an opportunity to create better opportunity, a better future for employees and customers. And these are the 5 active reinvention strategies which I would like to concentrate. Putting people first, designing a new virtual or physical spaces that work, solve in different phases, commit to an elastic cost structure, and get future ready. And the first and foremost is concentrating on your people, putting the people first. Your people in an organization could be first employees, then the suppliers and the customers. So the first of all, the organizations has to consider employees not just as individuals, but as a part of a larger ecosystem they support. Different employees may be affected by the pandemic differently, and different employees may have different circumstances which prevent them from attending the work, which prevent them from meeting the deadlines. And at this time of crisis, organizations are expected to understand the employees beyond the transactional relationship. In order to create a working, a rewarding, or a truly inclusive workplace, the organizations and the business houses must try to create a good relationship with the employees by understanding the ecosystem they come from. It is very much important to build the trust of the employees. And global research have shown that over 64% of the employees globally are having high anxiety due to their regarding their job security, and some others are anxious because they fear that the interactions may not be possible as before. So it is the responsibility of an employer, of the organization, to communicate with compassion and take people into confidence. And what is the need of the hour is leadership, which I call as glocal. It is not global, it is not local, it is a mix of global and local leadership. You need a local leadership to respond to the local needs, and you need a central guidance. So the need of the hour is a glocal leadership. Because at this time of the pandemic, government regulations, government protocols regarding the business will suddenly change over a week or within the days. It suddenly changes, and only a local leadership can quickly respond to this. So you need to have a local series of leadership. And there is also a need to seek the feedback of the employees proactively before any change is being implemented in the organizations. Then address the deeper needs of insecure workers. Workers are insecure because some of the jobs which they have been doing may have become outdated, or some jobs need additional skills to be acquired. So the organizations must give them opportunity to retrain, to enhance their skills, to give them more training, and show them more good advanced career pathways so that they can come up in life. And there may be absentee employees in the organization who may be absent or who may have got outdated because their skills may not be handy in the post-COVID situation. So the employers are required or expected to back them with sufficient skills and bring them back to work. And it is the time of extreme crisis that the organizations should be concerned about the personal problems of the employees too. Organizations are expected to handle the mental well-being of employees very delicately. And we can see that across the world, there has been a very rapid rise in the suicide rates, rapid rise in depression rates. So the mental well-being of the employees, stress level of the employees have to be taken care of by the organizations. And the organizations are expected to support not just employees, but their households also. Your employee may be having infants at home, young children at home, elderly parents at home. Only the work is open, only the business is open. The schools are not yet open. Elderly daycares are not yet open. So be more understand about the problems of the employees, and the organizations are expected to support the households and not just employees. And finally, when more employees return to workplace, it poses a big threat regarding the transmitting of virus. So the organizations or the business houses have to ensure that there is a rotation system where there is no crowding inside the office, and employees numbers have to be managed quite efficiently. And also remote working has to be maintained wherever possible. That is required from a pragmatic point of view as well as a financial point of view. And the second point is designing a new virtual or physical workspace that work. The reopening poses a lot of challenges to the physical workplace because post-COVID, the scenario, government has imposed a lot of restrictions on the physical movement of the employees, on the physical proximity of the employees. There has to be put into practice by the business houses. For example, there has to be a 6 feet distance between employees at work. This was not designed in the earlier work design or office layout before COVID. So that has to be configured right now in the office setup. The office layout has to be re-engineered in a very proactive manner, and also the norms regarding social distancing, hygiene practices which have to be strictly followed in the organizations. So some of the infrastructures which you have used may have to be altered, may have to be re-engineered, and that is expected from the business houses. Office spaces have to be given a facelift, and we have to redesign the work also by giving more digital works to the employees, so that the remote working from the house is encouraged, because anytime the pandemic outbreak can again force a lockdown, so the show has to go on. So at any point of time we have to sustain more digital workers. And when people are working from home, from their own personal devices at home and accessing the organization's cloud, the data security system has to be strengthened very much. And collaborative tools have to be provided to the employees. And the infrastructure needs have to be reviewed so that more of technology, more of collaborating tools are introduced in the organization, so that the employees can work seamlessly from the office and from the home. And it is high time the organization have to think about a position like a chief medical officer. Just like a chief financial officer, we need to think about a chief medical officer to look after the health protocols of the organization and how the workers, the employees, the management interact with the larger ecosystem. And there is also, it is also suggested that the employees from different time zones could be used, from different countries could be used, and they could be given the permission to log in at any time, finish their work, finish the customer's commitments, and exit. So you have to create a model which is more agile. You cannot think about a very stringent workplace model right now. So these are the new workplace norms, the new norms in the workplace, which was not prevalent in the pre-COVID world. So how fast the world has changed. And the third one is reopening has to be done in phases. The unlocking of business has to be done in different stages. You cannot open up the entire organizational activities all of a sudden. It is not expected. You have to reopen the business processes in phases. And it is required for the organization to align its critical process with the business strategies. And it is also required to employ an agile and elastic workforce model, a workforce which is highly flexible, which is quite quick to respond to the requirements of the system, of the ecosystem. And you can use a mixture of service models. You can use a home model, working from home model. You can use a working from office model. You can use a hybrid model. And use machines more for the transactional processes of an organization and free up human beings for critical thinking. You can use, or you can assign more of transactional activities to computers and use the brains for critical thinking. And this is a time which we require extraordinary leadership, a leadership which was in pre-COVID world may not be suitable for a post-COVID world. Here you need people who are highly compassionate, highly enthusiastic, highly agile, and highly responsive. So there is a need to reconstitute the leadership teams for reopening as well as reinvention. Then the last, probably the last one is committing to an elastic cost structure. So the lockdown has created a situation where every organization has to review its cost structure and think about how to reduce, where to reduce its cost. And it is high time the organizations create a culture of cost control ownership among the employees. Employees have to be familiarized with cost reduction strategies and how cost reduction strategies would benefit the organization. And adjusting the payables intelligently. In most cases, in the pre-COVID times, what businesses used to do to manage cash flow, we all know, is to delay the payables. But delaying the payables would cause the business a very valuable damage to a very valuable relationship with the suppliers. So this is not the right time to do that, because the supplier also may be cash starved. The supplier may also be maybe in the brink of the failure. So when you are not making payments on time, you are causing someone else to fail. So that is not what is expected from the business houses right now. The better thing is both the business organization and the supplier sit together and think about what is viable for you. And sometimes an organization, if required, may expedite the payment to a supplier who is facing a severe cash crisis. That will provide fuel to a long-standing relationship in the future. And the organizations may also think about alternate revenue streams. For example, if an organization was considering primary market as the international market, if an organization was looking upon an international market as its primary market, right now it may not be feasible. So they could think about a local market or the Indian market as their primary market. And the organizations may also seriously consider M&As, mergers and acquisitions. Wherever mergers and acquisitions are feasible, are possible, are advantages, make advantage of that. And finally, make use of government assistance and subsidies. Government has been announcing a lot of incentives, especially for small and medium enterprises when it is reopening their business. And a proactive business has the responsibility to take advantage of all these government measures. So this is actually practical steps which have been suggested for businesses before they reopen. This has been compiled from different reports. Different industrial groups have suggested all these steps, which could be customized in the Indian context, which could be customized in the Kerala context. And all of these measures may not be suitable for each of the businesses which we are in, but these are basically suggestions or roadmap for reopening the economy. And I personally believe that the future may be entirely different from the from the pre-COVID world, and whether it is will return to the norm, only time can say. And are we all together in this fight against COVID? That is a big question. The organizations which used to focus on its own growth alone cannot succeed in the long run. And I personally believe that those organizations which are responsive, which are highly responsive to the needs of the society, are the organizations that are going to succeed in the post-COVID world. So I would like your attention to one final video. And my final takeaway is that governments cannot do beyond this. And we, as responsible citizens, have to back our government, have to back our businesses in the fight against COVID. And organizations, businesses have to consider people, their people, putting them in the first, putting them in the forefront, putting them as the priority when they reopen, when they reinvent, when they revive their business. Only the people can bring the organizations back to its glory. And I do believe that together we can make a change, and together we can fight against the COVID, and and together we can bring a change. Thank you. Nitin, over to you, Nitin.
Thank you, Diana, for your excellent presentation. The platform is now open for discussion. You can interact with the resource person. Participants can ask your queries and questions directly to the resource person. You can either use chat box or you can unmute yourself and pose questions. Diana, there is a question
in the chat box. Can you read out?
Yeah. The question was asked by Nisha S. What about the traditional businessmen in post-COVID-19 business world, or how to attain their market?
Traditional business meaning what is the business she is referring to? Can she clarify?
The question was
Nisha.
Nisha, please respond.
Nisha is there?
Hello. Hi, ma'am.
Nisha. Hello. Can you please clarify what do you mean by traditional business?
Yeah. Traditional business means there is an without they don't know about the
technology,
the virtual marketing system. Yeah. Technological lack of technological businessman how they can attain their market in this.
Yeah, I understood, Nisha. That is where we as a society have the responsibility to uplift them also. As you said, that's a very responsible question from you, Nisha, because there are a lot of small traders, small businessmen who have no access to technology. But even the online platforms, we have to familiarize them with the online platforms where they can sell their produce, where they can get a better price than the local markets.
Yeah.
That is the
Yeah. Yeah.
responsibility of each of us. That is a responsibility of the society we live. That is a responsibility of and authorities right now, because for them in the long run they cannot succeed without access to technology. So as of right now, it has to be. I think it is in the priority of the government to provide technological access, technological know-how to small businessmen, handicrafts, artisans, all those people. That has to be done
Yeah.
for an
Yeah.
inclusive growth.
Okay. Okay, government have to take some initiative to collect those items and sell it through the other channels, like an
Yeah, even the
intermediary.
private business, even the business groups can do also, Nisha, because
Yeah,
business
yeah.
groups can collect from them, can give a better price to them. They can
But the
ask them to.
margin they get is comparatively low
Yes,
because
that is where
there is an
I was focusing. In the post-COVID world, we expect the businesses to be more responsible rather than more profit-seeking, because only
yeah.
together we can grow. And we have
Okay.
to bring about that mindset. We have to bring that mindset in our corporate sector also, because
I think this is the new business venture also to the other technological knowing students from the
yes, students can do
BSc
small
or
projects on that. Students can take it as a social responsibility. Like colleges, when they have ED clubs, colleges can think about how to, in their locality, how they can improve the lives of small traders or small businessmen. That could be taken up as a mission
yeah.
of our clubs, of our college, of a business group. That is where how or where or how we can intervene in the society.
Yeah, so the DICs can make a important role in that. So they can
TICs can make the role.
provide
And as
the schemes.
Nisha, are you a student or are you a faculty?
Yeah, I'm an assistant professor
Okay,
in
so
commerce.
very good. So faculties like you who are very socially responsible, you can take the lead. You can take the lead to approach the DICs, take up this course, and it starts from us. We cannot expect that government will come up for every proposal. We have to show proposals to the government also. So it can start from
Okay.
us.
Mm. Okay, ma'am.
Thank you, Nisha.
Definitely our ED club are initiative
Yes, yes.
to do it like this.
That
We
is
are
a
from
very
the
good
Nalangpur
suggestion from you.
community, so we are from a very SC/STs are tribal groups are the.
Yeah,
So
because
we
they
have
make
to do
very good
something for
handicrafts.
them.
Yeah. So you can
Yeah.
take it as how to market their very rare handicrafts to the larger world. That is a very good opportunity for you.
Okay, ma'am. Thank you. You are a
Okay.
good presentation and a
Thank
good
you. Thank
open.
you. Thank you, Nisha. Mm.
Okay, ma'am.
Uh, does anyone else have any query to ask? The platform is now open. You're free to ask.
Hello, Professor Diana. Hello.
Yes, sir. Hello, sir.
Yeah, hello. Very good afternoon, Professor. It was a good presentation.
Thank you,
I
sir.
am from Tamil Nadu.
Okay.
My name is Dr. Gopanaswamy. So I am
Okay.
just want to have a difference. In 2008 also we had a problem. 2008 and 2019. What is the difference we are having as of now?
You are mentioning about financial crisis.
Yeah, yes, the same. No,
It's
2008 and
entirely different. 2008 was just a financial crisis, whereas this one is a health crisis and economic crisis and has become as a human crisis also. So this is a catastrophic effect, which I think human history have not a parallel. So this is entirely different. We cannot compare with the 2008 crisis.
Okay, no, as you suggested in your presentation, I think together we can come over from this crisis. I think that is the only thing.
Yeah.
And we can educate our students and the fraternity
Yeah, each one of us have a role. We cannot expect government to take the role always. Each of us have a role.
Yes, that is why it has been done. And the example of Kerala Health Minister K.K. Sailada, that I think he has shown the path to come out of this crisis. I think thanks
Yes.
a lot. Have a good afternoon. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Nice talking.
Thank you for mentioning our health minister also. Thank you so much.
Go on. She was invited for the
UN
UN.
talk. Yes,
UN.
yes.
That was the contribution made by her. So we have to
Yes.
appreciate.
Yes,
So
yes, we
people
have.
always, there are people to help us. So people only can make a change.
Yes, people make the change.
That is the way. If you take many institutions in India, all it is built by you and me only.
Yes, true.
But the credit goes to the teachers, no?
Yes.
Okay, nice to talk to you. Bye.
Thank you.
Dana, there is a question by Adarsh Sugadan.
Okay.
What are your views about the job opportunities post COVID-19 other than the startups, especially for the placement opportunities regarding those students who will be completing their courses by the end of this academic year?
I know, because Adarsh is also finishing his course by the end of this academic year. There could be a temporary, there could be a temporary recession in the job market. It is expected because some of the placements may have to be stopped for the time being, but that is where you have to look for other opportunities also. There is a requirement for analytical skills of the students. There is a requirement for the job market will be entirely different from the pre-COVID world. I think we have to closely observe the developments in the economy in the post-COVID world, and we have to acquire those skill sets which the employers are looking for, and you will definitely be placed in a much better way. A traditional MCOM student passing out of MCOM normally settles for a bank job or a college lecturer job or any traditional jobs. But these jobs may not be in the same way as before, because when online teaching has taken over, it is already being suggested that the appointments will be less in the coming years. Similarly, many of the transactional jobs will be designated to computers, will be automated. So we may have to acquire new skill sets, especially with respect to data analytics. And I think our students will have to, along with their postgraduate courses, they have to compulsorily acquire a few skills also, few certificate programs, few skills that make them ready for the market. And we have to constantly open our eyes and ears to the requirements of the market. Definitely, there will be a plenty of opportunities, Adarsh. Hello, Nitin.
Any other queries? I think everyone has stopped asking questions. If anyone has any question to ask, you can freely ask. Okay, one question is there by Pravina Vijayan. What is the impact of COVID in the education sector? Of opportunities or threats?
It has a lot of opportunities, and if you consider it as threats, it has a lot of threats also. Personally, I take very positive view about things and about life. So COVID, as we are all witnessing right now, has changed the way in which we interact. Normally, we haven't thought about a webinar. I have not even attended a single webinar before lockdown. I have not been familiarized with Google Meet or any platforms before lockdown, before this COVID scenario. So we have all adjusted to the new scenario. We have started using new online facilities. So definitely the education system has changed. And we have realized that we can manage both offline and online modes. We can have, I think in the future, for example, IIT Bombay, IIT Mumbai, I think have suspended their semester, and they have made it compulsory. They have made it clear that they are going to have only online classes for the next semester. So that change is happening. Sometimes they may use a mix of both. Sometimes they may consider only online sessions in the future. So it has definitely changed. And the change we have to accept. There could be threats, like if we don't upgrade our skills, if I don't learn new technology, I am outdated. That is definitely a threat. But if I learn new technology, if I learn to master OBS Studio, if I learn to upload contents in Moodle, if I learn technology, that is a big opportunity for me. So we can take it as an opportunity or we can take it as a threat. It is up to us.
There is one more question by Anbu Arisu Nallamuthu. It's not clear the question.
I think I understood what he meant. Anpu Arasu, it is not yet the right time to think about post-COVID-19 as you suggested. Actually, throughout the presentation, I was mentioning about how to live, how to revive business along in a COVID scenario. It is not post-COVID scenario, but post-lockdown. Once the business is reopened and we are living with COVID, what are the strategies you could use? That is what I was presenting. I was concentrating. We are not yet safe to say that it is a post-COVID world. You have given a correction. Correct. That is a very good suggestion. Anything else?
Another question, Dr. Srila Krishnan. You mentioned the efforts taken by Amul to be successful. What about cooperative societies in Kerala, about their opportunities?
Cooperative societies in Kerala, I have highlighted Amul in a particular context because it is a national brand which has already acceptance in the households, but still it did not keep quiet during the lockdown. It did not curtail its advertisement expenses during the lockdown. It used lockdown as an opportunity. It used this crisis as an opportunity. That is the context in which I was referring to Amul. I don't know why you have compared Amul with other cooperative societies in Kerala. My context of presenting Amul is respect to their marketing strategies.
Okay, another question by Adil Hamir. According to your opinion, what would be the effect of conducting exams in present scenario? Since for the final years, it is very essential to conduct their exams, but the chances of spreading are wide. And how about conducting online exams for semester exams?
That is a very controversial question, and I am not an authority to answer that. But in regarding our college, we in the capacity of an autonomous college, we have conducted the exams with strict social distancing protocol. So, but the UGC has now recommended that you don't need to conduct final year; it is optional. So, it is up to the government of Kerala. It is up to the colleges to decide. I don't know whether my opinion matters for that. Online exams will become a norm in the coming years. That could be expected. And colleges can conduct exams with strict social distancing norms if they take the correct measures. That we have proven that. Anything else?
Okay, I think. Okay, another question by Ranjini R. Verma. What is the role of e-commerce marketers in protecting traditional businessmen? Is it good for government to give certain guidelines for the same?
E-commerce is emerging as a very good, a life-giving platform to the small traders in the small towns of India. If you look at closely observe the product offerings of Amazon or Flipkart or Club Factory, you can see that traditional handicrafts, traditional dress materials, traditional items are being sold now through e-commerce platforms at a very good price. In their locality, they may get maybe much less than what is being offered in an e-commerce site. So whether it is reaching those people, I'm not sure, but definitely e-commerce platforms are giving a very good platform to the traditional businessmen. And government has to come up. That is a very good suggestion. Government has to come up with certain guidelines to govern the e-commerce sites.
Okay, thank you. Another question by Libida Binesh. What are the activities that their ED Club can take up?
ED Club can be a real developmental platform for colleges. They can think about starting their own incubators in the campus. At the same time, they can market the producers of the local community. They can be a hub where they can bring together the local producers. They can give a fair return to the farmers, and they can take the marketing activities. This will be a very socially responsible mission and a very good intervention activity that could be taken by the ED Club. Actually, ED clubs of all the colleges, if they come together, if we have a platform to bring together, that could emerge, or that could give very valuable suggestions to revive the business scenario of Kerala, because very good minds, very good ideas come from the students. We have to think about platforms of using ED Club, or you can cross-link the activities of ED Club of your college with another college. It is the common benefit of the society, not just the prestige of our college, but the common benefit of the society that is to be kept in the mind.
Okay, next question by Ashwini Ajay. You told about upgrading the technology needed for the promotion of education system. So, what about the people who don't have access to those digital technologies?
We have to think about inclusiveness in our growth, in our development, and that is where the business houses, individuals, corporate charities can all work hand in hand. Even in a college like ours, where the students do not have smartphones, other students are finding ways to provide the students with the smartphone so that the education is not affected. So this could be taken up by societies. This could be taken up by clubs. This could be taken by residents association. This could be taken up by churches, by temples, by religious bodies. Because what we need is inclusive growth. And without technology, we cannot move into the future. That is for sure. So because a person doesn't have technology, we don't keep him away, but we try to provide that access to the technology and bring him along for the growth. That is what I have suggested.
Okay, another question by Sangeeta Krishnan. It's a very general question. She had
Which I
heard
have
that.
nothing to. I'm not able to answer that probably because I don't know the origin of COVID-19 virus, how it started in a wet market, the science or that I am not sure. I am not the authority to answer that. Very sorry, Sangeeta Krishnan. Probably you may have to read on the evolution of COVID-19 virus, which I'm not able to answer.
Another question by Susmin James. Kerala is one of the states with large number of NRI. Can it be manageable for the state government in terms of employment?
State government cannot provide employment to all the expatriates, to all the NRIs who are returning. And the NRIs, government at best can facilitate the NRIs to become employers. Rather than making them as employees, government can facilitate steps to convert them as employers or small entrepreneurs. That is what we could do. We cannot give employment to all the returning employees, returning NRIs.
Another question by Rajesh MT. What about future public transport system after post-COVID period?
I think our public transport system should be encouraged with all the health and hygiene practices in the post-COVID scenario, because we have to give due consideration to the environment also. In many countries, there has been a wide call for the people to give up the usage of private vehicles and start using public transport system. But it is not the right time now to advocate that. But once the threat of pandemic is over, definitely public transport system has to be promoted.
Another question by Usha K. Which sectors of the economy will fastly recover COVID-19 challenges?
Different sectors of the economy have been affected differently. The impact is severe on some sectors, especially when you look around, you can see the hospitality industry, travel and tourism, aviation industry. They have been severely affected and they will take more time. I could say they will take more time to revive. But those sectors which are quickly responsive to changes, for example, the service sector, banking sector, the insurance sector, those who can quickly respond to changes may probably recover faster. That is what I feel.
Another question by Danya JVK. What is your opinion about our network companies and electronic devices companies strategies and the present situation and how they influence our next generation?
I haven't got your question clearly. What is meant by this network companies?
I think she might have meant mobile service providers.
Okay. Mobile network companies, how they influence. They are one of the big beneficiaries of this pandemic, I should say, because when we have reduced spending on many items, we have increased our spending on mobile data recharges, on mobile phones, on technology gadgets, and they have, I think they would have benefited immensely out of this pandemic. And definitely they are going to have a very dominant role in the coming years also, because when the organizations, when educational institutions are all going technology oriented, definitely their marketing strategy will influence.
Okay, next question is by Adil Hamid, and another question is there by Annette. It looks almost similar. Will there be any kind of development and business in the tourism sector? What are the chances in the field? And the question by Annette is, due to COVID, what will be the after effect in tourism department?
Adil and Annette, definitely tourism sectors are one of the worst affected. Personally, Adil and Annette, if you think about yourself also, you may not prefer to travel right now. You may not prefer to travel by train very soon. You may not prefer to travel by a tourist bus very soon. So definitely it will take a while for tourism sector to recover. And especially the tourism sector have to give more priority to hygiene, to healthy practices in their maintenance of their hotels, and they may have to make slight changes, not slight, they may have to change their layout, they may have to give more privacy, more areas for privacy. They may have to reconfigure their rooms probably to evolve in the post-COVID world. Tourism department will have a tough job to promote tourism.
There is another question by Salina BV. In the case of Amul and Parle-G, there is a success story during COVID period. Is this possible to other industries to get this through changing business strategies?
It could have been possible to many brands, but Amul and Parle-G probably, when I've read about Amul's MD has anticipated in January this year itself that there could be a lockdown. Even before UN declared COVID as a pandemic, Amul MD had in his mind that there could be a possible lockdown. So that speaks of their corporate vision, their strategy, their marketing intelligence. So those brands which has very good marketing research and marketing intelligence teams, they could come up with growth stories during crisis.
Okay, I think the questions are stopped. I think we shall conclude the session.
Okay.
Uh,
Dr.
okay.
Diana, excuse me, Dr. Diana, am I
Manoj
audible?
sir, are you there?
Yes, I have not switched on the mic to raise a question or query,
Okay.
but only to express my happiness for the wonderful session led by Dr.
Thank you,
Diana.
sir.
I am particularly happy because she is a student of mine for her degree program, and I have been observing her throughout her academic career. And it was a very wonderful session, as expressed by most of the participants in the chat box. And I am not only happy but also proud. Also appreciate Dr. Nitin and team for inviting Diana for this wonderful session. The right resource person. I have attended many sessions of this post-COVID business world, and it was really wonderful, Diana. Thank you all also.
Thank you so much, Manoj sir. Actually, the presence of Manoj sir itself is a very big honor to me. Is undoubtedly one of the best professors, best teachers, and best human beings I have seen. Thank you so much, sir, for joining me.
Thank you, sir. Now I invite Srimati Abhisha Raj to deliver the word of thanks.
Thank you, sir. Respected and our most distinguished Chief Guest of the Day, Dr. Diana ma'am, respected Principal Dr. Sharmila ma'am, our beloved HOD Alvin ma'am, and all the participants of this webinar. I deem it great honor and privilege to propose vote of thanks on this webinar on navigating the human and business impact of COVID-19. Our sincere thanks to the Chief Guest, Dr. Diana and Isaac, HOD, Department of Commerce, Mayor Athanasius College, Kodamangalam, for gracing today's webinar. Thank you, ma'am, for your interesting and valuable information. Thank you. A warm thanks goes to our respected principal, Dr. Sharmila ma'am, for her moral support and guidance. And I would like to take a moment to acknowledge the immense contribution of our HOD and the webinar technical team of our college. The special thanks to all the participants who have made this webinar as a grand success. So thank you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you all for joining the webinar. Your certificates will be provided to you through your email ID within 2 days. The link for the feedback is given in the chat box. You can fill it and you can receive the certificate. It will take 2 to 3 days. If not received, you can mail me or you can call me. You're free to call on my number. And thank you for joining us for today's webinar. Thank you very much.
Thank you,